Well, why does that go hand in hand with music so much, do you think?
I don't know. There are those who think that it improves their playing, who feel like that it opens up their creativity and experimentation. But to this day, I have never heard anyone say, man, he's just gotten so much better ever since he started shooting up.
Right.
I've just never heard anyone say that.
It doesn't really happen. No, it doesn't. That is correct. You know. But I guess it's a perception. It's a perception that it's...
It is, and for some people it does work. I mean, I don't want to name any names, but there are several people who, after they became sober, never played another significant note in their careers.
I guess that could be true as well. Yeah.
I mean, I have heard that he hasn't, ever since he sobered up, he hasn't played very well. I have heard that said.
Oh gosh. That's tough. That's tough. I wanted to go back to the beginnings of your career a little bit and some of the work you did prior to Kansas. Now, you were actually in a symphony. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in the Tulsa Philharmonic. I went to, I kind of toured the university circuit for a couple of years. I went to several different schools and I just didn't fit in. Mm-hmm. And I finally ended up at the University of Tulsa and played in the University Symphony and also played in the Tulsa Philharmonic.
What was that like versus, I mean, that's a very different discipline than playing in a rock band, obviously.
And that's what I thought I wanted to do. That was my goal. To be perfectly honest, my goal back in that day was to be in the Atlanta Symphony. That's what I wanted to do. It's very rigid. It's more like the Olympics as opposed to football, because it's very structured and very specific, and there are, the studies are extreme. It's very difficult. The music is very difficult. The instruments are very difficult. The discipline is very strict to be a symphonic player. And I think I'm just a little too free and easy a guy, to be perfectly honest. After 4 years of that, I realized that it was not, that I was just a rock guy at heart, because I'd been a guitar player back in high school and had been on the road with a little cover band, and that's just where I felt most natural.
Right. A lot of, by the very nature of playing in a symphony, it's repetition of a lot of the same material straight from the page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your interpretation is not really being sought after.
You can't just suddenly rip into a different part or something.
Yeah, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And no, it wouldn't.
Yeah, right.
Sit down and shut up.
Now, do I have this right that after that you played with Louise Mandrell?
That's correct.
That is an interesting segue. How did that come about?
Well, after I decided that I no longer wanted to be a symphonic player, I decided I wanted to become a studio musician. And where do you go if you want to be a studio musician and you're playing a violin? You go to Nashville.
Right, of course.
So that's where I went, and I actually made a lot of people mad. Most of the time when you make that decision, what you do is you get a job at a pizza parlor or a, tending bar or something like that and get in line and wait for 3 or 4 years.
Or more, yeah. Sure.
I stumbled over the Louise gig about 6 weeks after I moved there.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a funny set of circumstances. I was out, I'd go out to bars and try to talk my way on stage and just sit in with bands. And I stumbled over the husband of one of Louise's background vocalists at the exact time that Louise was forming a new band.
Huh.
And he said, man, you ought to call this guy. He gave me the number of Louise's music director and tour manager. And I called him up, and I got in line for the auditions, and it just fell right in my lap.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool from my perspective, and I did that for over 4 years.
What was that gig like for you musically? Is there any challenge to a Louise Mandrell song from a musical perspective?
Yeah, some of it was actually pretty challenging. Rick was a clever dude and did all the Rick King was her music director, and he did all the arrangements. He was a pretty clever guy. And some of it was that we would make it as challenging as we wanted to make it, but then there were others of it that were just, here's how the song goes, play.
Right.
And Louise wasn't your typical country, go out and stand there with an acoustic guitar and just deliver the song. It was pretty physical stuff. She was a dancer and had three dancers that she carried around, and they'd choreograph, and it it got, some of it was pretty involved.
Huh. That's pretty cool. So how do you wrap your head around a gig like that? Were you happy in playing it? I mean, was there?
Well, yeah. As once again, my rock and roll roots stepped up and informed me that they weren't interested in continuing. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I wouldn't have done it for 4 years if I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
But it wasn't what I wanted to do, and I had kind of the studio thing had kind of gone by the wayside because I was never in town. You have to be in town to do the studio thing. And truth be known, I probably wasn't good enough. I mean, those guys are serious. I mean, there's a whole vocabulary of things that you play.
Right.
And those guys are very good. The guys that get the call in Nashville are incredibly good players, and I'm probably up to snuff for that sort of thing. And I just finally realized I guess instead of going to Nashville, I probably should have gone out to L.A. where rock and roll is happening. And the funny thing is, now that you mention it, about 2 years into Louise, Kansas released Power.
Right.
And that was the first album that they did with Steve Morse. And I got to listen to that, and I'm hearing all those old Kansas sounds combined with these Dixie Dregs sounds, but there's no violinists on the record.
Right.
No, you got to have them. So I had a little 4-track tape, 4-track cassette player, and I put some excerpts from Power on 2 tracks, and then created the violin parts that I would have played on the other 2 tracks, and mixed them together, and actually managed to get a copy of that to Phil Ehart, the Kansas's drummer,
right,
that don't know, and manager of the band. And Phil actually gave me a call. He was very impressed with it. He didn't hire me, but he was very impressed with it, and just thought it was kind of clever. And he gave me his number. And over the next 2 years, no, it was 4 years.
Right.
Anytime I did anything significant that made it on tape, I would send a copy of it to Phil. And I'd call him every 5 months or so. Hey, man, how are you?
Reminding him you were alive, sure.
Yeah, so I was chasing Kansas around most of the time I was in Louise's band.